Oh, hello. I'm Alex Navarro. Welcome to another edition of Encyclopedia Bombastica here on GiantBomb.com. Today, we're going to play a little Amplitude for the PlayStation 2. This is obviously the sequel to Frequency from developer Harmonix. Came out back in 2003. It's about a little under 10 years old now. I do this obviously in tribute and respect to the PlayStation 2, which has finally gone out of production as of just a couple weeks ago. So I thought I would play one of my, personal favorite all-time rhythm games, or PlayStation 2 games, or any, games on that era. So, unfortunately, I can't show any in multiplayer. That's the one bummer about all of this, as I scroll through some of the created character people here. Online servers are off. There's no one else here. I don't have anyone to play with. I'm sorry. I can't do the dueling mode without other people. I'm sorry. Instead, I'm going to jump into the single player here with a guy I've already made who looks great. He looks great. And I'm going to show you a little bit about what Amplitude was all about. This was a rhythm game before rhythm games were, a thing. Before they were mainstream in any way, shape, or form. You had your Japanese stuff, like the Dance Dance Revolution, the Beat Mania, the what have you. And you had, there were these little sort of, inroads into the market. Parappa the Rapper was a relatively popular game as rhythm games of that era went. And, this Harmonix had been around for a little bit, but they hadn't really done anything of note on consoles before. So, like, these two games were, like, their two first big, rhythm games on consoles. And, as one might expect in that scenario, they did not sell well. They were mostly commercial failures. They kind of... Yeah, no, it was not a big success for them. But at the same time, it introduced a lot of things. As you can see, I'm going through the tracks here. Here's your bass, low end of the song. Here's your pyong, pyong sound. But yeah, introduced a lot of ideas that they went on to use into much greater success in games like Guitar Hero, Rock Band, perhaps you've heard of them. And one of those key things is the idea of sort of breaking out tracks and making the individual tracks part of the gameplay. The way it splits out, the different, the drums, the bass, the pew-pew sounds, whatever. In this game, when you miss notes, like in those other games that came out, later, the track dropped out. Either it would make a miss noise when you missed it at that second, or if you just left a track alone for too long without playing it, it would just disappear from the song. Like, it would just, there was no guitar track at that moment. And, that sounds kind of, simple and normal now, but at the time, the idea of games kind of mixing and messing with the mastering of songs, the master mixes, it was a little nutty. It was really cool. It was a cool idea that for practicality's sake, maybe, a lot of people just didn't think was possible, because what musicians would want to give up their masters for people to mess around with? Which now, obviously, everyone except Jimmy Page did, and that's, but for a long time that was a struggle. It was a struggle to get artists on board with, video games, other than just sort of like, here's this copy of this song that you're gonna play in, the Tony Hawk soundtrack or the Madden soundtrack or whatever. And it was fun. These games were fun. They were challenging, maybe not quite like Japanese level challenging as far as like rhythm games go, but like as far as the insane difficulty in this game was concerned, it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare. I'm playing on the brutal difficulty, and even that is not easy. I think the only reason I'm actually doing well here is because I actually still play a fair amount of Rock Band Blitz since that came out last year, and tapping along with buttons on the controller is something I've managed to stay in practice with. So the control scheme here is obviously very different. It's the 3 notes across as opposed to the 2. I'm using the shoulder buttons of the PlayStation 3 controller that I have here because I'm running this off my PlayStation 3. Not that the design is really all that different between the 2 and the 3, but so that's where a lot of the more challenging parts come in. Is that you have these 3 notes that you have to maintain. So I'm basically using 2 fingers on one hand and 1 on another. It's like this configuration here, which it serves its purpose. By the same token, I also think that this game, in my estimation, is one of the great examples of music. How do I explain this? Modern rhythm games are very much about the music in the sense that, like, you are, like, there's lots of songs. All these, the Guitar Heroes and the rock bands, they got a lot of songs. And they span different decades, genres, whatever. It's about, you liking the music first and then playing it second. These games were very much about liking the game first, and the music often kind of came a little bit second, because the game, the music was relevant for the time. I mean, as much as I would love to, pretend that Korashi never happened and that, that Weezer album with Dope Nose never happened. So if you were, if it was 2003 and you were listening to music, like, this is the shit that was on the radio. Maybe not this. This is, I think, one of the Harmonix house acts, maybe, or is at least, a lower, like, I don't know who this is. This is some trance musician, but, like, Freeze Pop, who went on to be very noteworthy for their contributions to the Rock Band and Guitar Hero soundtracks. Kind of got their start with these games because one of the dudes who was in that group worked at Harmonix. But otherwise, a lot of the songs, like the Blink-182 and that stuff, was all very much of the time. You had your exceptions, like I think there's a Bowie song in here, and there was a Run DMC's King of Rock. But, basically, they picked music that was fun to play, sort of removed from any real need to hopefully try and get you to buy this just based on the strength of the music. They wanted you to play this as a game and focus more on that, which is why it's extremely hard to talk about this game, because the gameplay is such that it is not easy to talk and play at the same time. Sorry about that. Oh, this beat. And with that in mind, it was just a kind of a different thing. It was just eventually music games evolved into that notion that, hey, what if we focus on music that people really like, and then, they'll just like the game because the game's kind of fun and, simple and what have you. Not which isn't to say that, Rock Band and Guitar Hero didn't have challenging moments, but, it's like, there's a reason why they put no fail in those games. There's a reason why, Rock Band parties were never so much about, who gets the highest score so much as who has the most fun playing on, in front of everyone. It's about the music. It was about you liking the music and having fun playing the music. It was not so much about you being really good at this game. That's how I look at it. Maybe other people disagree. I don't know. But this was about the game. This was all about the gameplay. The gameplay was fast. It was challenging. It was, it was really good in multiplayer. It was online still when games were not. Games had become more consistently online enabled by this point in 2003, but it was not a given. It was absolutely not a given. You had Tony Hawk 3 was sort of like the first really big online PlayStation 3 game. This was a couple years after that, so, other studios started picking it up, but you're still using the PlayStation 2 network adapter, Like, a lot of, we weren't that far removed from the dial-up days of the Dreamcast, you know what I mean? And that, to me, is... I think that's, to me, is like my favorite part of doing these videos, is that it sort of makes me sit there and think about things that, why doesn't this have this? Why doesn't it have this? Why does this seem like so at the front? It's like, oh, well, it's because that was a big fucking deal back then. Being online was a big deal in the early 2000s, game-wise. It was definitely not expected yet. And I think it's important that people understand that, and people realize that, you know, the things that you have come to take for granted in video games in the modern era are not a given by any stretch. And were not a given for a long time. So, you know, that's that. Now, I realize that me doing a Harmonix game probably seems weird to some people because I used to work there, but, you know, I feel like there's been enough widespread praise for these games over the years where I don't feel like I'm talking out of turn by saying how good it is, you know? I don't feel like I'm talking crazy by saying that this game is dope. Because it is. This game is dope. This game is totally dope. And I will fight anyone who says otherwise. And I mean, honestly, like, this game and Guitar Hero 1 and 2 and Rock Band 1 were why I wanted to go work for those guys. You know, there are lots of games that I've loved over the years that I never had any, like, I don't want to go work for, you know, the people who make the shooters I like, or the, you know, Grand Theft. I had no desire to go work on a Grand Theft Auto game because, you know, I like playing those games, but it doesn't interest me in the sense of, like, you know, wanting to develop those games. Like, it doesn't speak to me on a really personal level. Music always has, because I'm a musician. Yes, I'm a drummer. So, you know, I tap on things for a living, but, you know, I like the idea of music and games sort of interacting in a way that was not just me listening to music and games. And the philosophy of those guys always really interested me. And when, you know, I had the chance to go work for them, I took it, because I felt like, you know, that was something I wanted to be a part of. And for, you know, a long time I was, and it was great. It was awesome. Those guys are still my friends, and, you know, I count myself lucky for that. I don't love every game they make. I don't care about Green Day Rock Band. But I like those dudes, and I like many of the things they have done over the years, like, for instance, Amplitude. R.I.P. Jam Master J. Oh. Yeah, see, I'm just gone up one difficulty tier here, and already this is way more hectic, and I'm not even on the most insane difficulty. So yeah, these games would be freaking hard. I remember I used to sit next to Ryan Davis during the GameSpot days, and he would, when he reviewed, I think he was reviewing this game when I first started there, if I recall correctly, and his hands, he was constantly talking about how much it hurt him to have to play through these games on, like, higher difficulty levels. And he's not wrong. I don't know if I'm going to get to insane before I finish this video, because I'm probably not. Probably just not. I'm just not good enough to do it. I'm sorry, I'm just not. Now, you may also be asking yourself why Harmonix has never thought to continue this franchise, and, you know, I'm sure they have, in fact, thought of this over time. They would, you know, I mean, they've made games like Blitz and Rock Band Unplugged that were, you know, very similar to this in terms of, like, the track switching and the note hitting and the way it all kind of, you know, works together. But they're different, you know, they're different feeling games. They feel more like Rock Band than I think they do this. With these, I forgot about the freestyle section. I don't remember how this works. I'm hitting things, and what do I do? Freestyle. Yeah. As with all games, I've forgotten more about this than I remember. Sorry. What was I talking about before that happened? Oh, why have they not made more of these games? Well, there's a pretty simple reason, and that's because Sony owns the rights. They were the publisher of both Frequency and Amplitude, and they own the franchise rights, I believe, to whatever they would do in this, you know, Frequency Amplitude space. Obviously, they can make games like those. They just can't make them that are, you know, this kind of, with this level of specificity to what people remember of those games. And, you know, I don't know that I would necessarily want them to anyway. I feel like they've kind of moved past that. I would rather see, like, what new, interesting things those guys would want to do with, you know, modern technology, than just see them try and make a bigger version of this. I feel like Rock Band Blitz kind of scratches the itch I have for that stuff anyway, but maybe not everyone agrees. We don't have to. It's not important. I don't even know what else to say about this game, honestly, other than I really enjoyed the shit out of it. I mean, you know, it had a good soundtrack for its time. It was very much a soundtrack of its time, with the Blink-182 and the Weezer and the what have you. But it was, you know, it was good music. It was still good music that fit well with what they were doing. You know, I sort of sit here and I look at, you know, this and just like, you know, that's... You know what this makes me sad about? Not even more so than perhaps like, you know, kind of Rock Band or whatever. Because I mean, those games cover any number of different decades and genres and what have you. Is that this is a game that, you know, was soundtrack wise of its time. It was of the early 2000s, and there were bands on there. There were bands on that soundtrack. You know, Garbage was a band. Weezer was a band. Those are bands with people that play instruments and that and what have you. I mean, there are pop stars on it. Pink was on this soundtrack, so, you know, it's not... And, you know, they weren't all good bands. POD was on this soundtrack. They weren't a good band. But I feel like modern music doesn't have bands anymore. Like, you get your occasional, you know, pop things like Fun. Fun is a band that is popular. Then you have, like, your kind of, you know, your more butt-rocky stuff like Nickelback, which, you know, that's fine. It is what it is. I don't like that band, but, you know, they are a band, at least. I feel like we're kind of in that weird 80s thing where it's, like, everything went so electronic that, like, being in a band more or less amounted to having a guitar player that played over a bunch of, you know, electronic beats and keyboards. And I don't know, it's like... Modern music makes me kind of sad, and I don't want to be like old man hating music saying this shit. I'm just going to show you the remix mode here real quick, which I was never any good at. I'm just going to make some noise with this thing just to kind of show what it looked like. You would just lay down the notes with, you know, the however you wanted. Just making nonsense. But yeah, I don't know. I sort of miss bands. You know, it's like there's plenty of like, you know, indie rock acts out there and whatever, and there's, you know, no shortage of like random metal bands out there. But I just sort of like, I guess what I'm saying is I sort of miss the, you know, the sort of ubiquitousness of the alternative scene. I miss the kind of like, I miss rock. You know, I miss rock music. It makes me miss rock music. And this game had rock music in it because people were still fucking listening to rock music back then. Back in like 2003. All the way up until, like, I'd say, like, the last 3 or 4 years, rock music still mattered. I'm not going to mess with this anymore. I'm actually just going to play us out at this point, because I feel like I'm getting kind of soapboxy and not even really talking about the game anymore. But, I don't know what else to say other than I miss... Man, I really am just every other old man on Earth. I miss the music that I grew up listening to. I have become that cliche. And Amplitude has helped me realize that. So in order to punish myself for becoming that cliche, I'm going to play some Korashi here and send us out on that note, because now I'm just sad. Where the hell is Korashi from, anyway? Sweden? Someone will tell me in the comments, I'm sure. I'm sure I'll find out that they are extremely popular in their native country. Like, they are the U2 of whatever fucking... I don't know, or Linkin Park. They're the Linkin Park of whatever, wherever it is they came from. Not so much record scratching in music anymore. And I mean that in like a, you know, your band does not... Well, and again, there aren't bands, but... Bands with DJs. That is the most early 2000s thing that is... There is no more early 2000s thing, even, or, you know, very late 90s thing than your band having a DJ. Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Incubus, two skinny J's, you know, whatever. 311. Yeah, 311. 311, I guess, really pioneered the whole DJ in your band thing. And they were like, what, mid-90s? So, just I feel like in the early 2000s is when the world decided to, in late 90s was when the world really decided to roll with that whole idea of, yeah, man, what if our band had a DJ? What if we had a dude scratching records over our dope like, it's like, dude, I'll just do this sick drop D riff, and then he'll be all like, wicka wicka wicka. Oh, I shouldn't do that. He'll be all wicka wicka wicka, and you know that'll be awesome. Not really a part of music that I miss that much, I'll be honest with you. That was a really dumb idea. I don't know why we ever agreed to the idea of guys scratching records over our rock music. And for all you people who are about to start, like, defending Linkin Park and Incubus and whatever in the comments, just don't. Deaf ears, right here. Okay. I should stop doing that again. Deaf ears, I will not care. Besides, no band that you like is as good as Korashi, so there. Oof. Oh, this is not... This is on Insane. I agreed to play a song on Insane, and this is, you know, this is one of the easier songs on Insane. So, hey, have fun with that, if you want to go play. I don't think I've ever heard this song outside of this game. I know that Korashi had another song, but I don't think it was not this one. This and the garbage song that's in this game I have never heard outside of this. And it's not because I don't think they exist outside of that. I think it's because I just never was a big fan of either of those bands. Well, this has been fun, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me ramble about Amplitude rhythm games for a while. This is one of my favorites of the genre, and I think I'm going to end it on that note. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you go out and go play this game. It's fun, if you can, legally. See you later.